Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm coming to y'all with another knife review, and this one's actually on a Kershaw. This is the CQC-4KXL. This is my buddy Hagen's knife, not my own. He's been carrying and using this thing for, I think, about 2 years now. And recently he asked me if I wanted to review it. I said absolutely. I asked him his experiences with the knife and how it's performed for him. And I went and put it through some basic cutting tasks, such as cutting cardboard, a little bit of food prep, and other general everyday carry tasks, just to see how it performs for myself in hand, so I can give you hands-on experience with the knife. And what I can say about it is this knife is outstanding for the price point. I believe they sell these for about $45. He got his for about $40 at Walmart. And for that price point, this is amazing. Genuinely, I honestly think this is an amazing high-quality knife for the money, far surpassing any of the other Chinese-made Kershaws I've ever had. And I've liked a lot of Chinese-made Kershaws. Here's a Kershaw Nerve, formerly called the Kershaw Blitz, I believe. I gave this a pretty good review years and years and years ago, and I love this knife, but it doesn't hold a candle to this particular Kershaw. This Kershaw Emerson CQC-4KXL, that's the full name of the knife, by the way, not just the model number. The model number on this is the 6055. So it uses an Emerson-style naming system and a Kershaw-style model number system. But I've carried and used other Chinese-made Kershaw knives, and I haven't liked any of them as much as I like how this knife works. I'll get into the reasons why I feel that way. First of all, let me go through the specs, because it's the boring part that a lot of you could just read on the website. And therefore, it doesn't actually have a lot of impact in the review to read it out. So we have an 8CR 14 MOV blade, a little different than the 8CR 13 MOV blades from the previous models. It is a 3.9-inch long spear point blade with a nice hollow grind, which you guys know I love. Handles are a G10 slab with a stainless steel frame lock. And no, that is not skeletonized in there, so this is a heavy knife. I'll get to that in a minute. Traction on the G10 is medium. This one is nice and slick from a lot of pocket wear, as you can see. This knife has been put through the ringer. And it is a 5.1-inch handle, which means you have a lot of room to grab onto the knife. I wear a medium-sized glove, and you can see just how big this handle is. And the weight is 6.1 ounces. So it is a nice, hefty knife. All that said, I still think the knife is amazing, and while it's far too large for me to want to personally carry and use, it has inspired me to go off and get one of these smaller 3-inch bladed versions with a liner lock that Kershaw makes. I'll be ordering one of those as soon as I have the funds for it, because in using this knife and seeing how it's held up to his use and abuse, I'm amazed. I really am. Even the Spyderco Tenacious, Persistence, Resilience, Ambitious line, all that, the bird knives, and everything else that I've used in the same price range has not impressed me quite so much. This thing is solidly built. It feels amazing in hand, has a great utilitarian blade shape, a good grind, a nice stonewash finish on that blade, by the way. You guys can see that, which has helped this knife fight rust, because he has not kept this oiled very much, despite the fact that it is an 8CR 14 MOV blade. We live here in northeast Texas, not all that far away from Louisiana, and you can see there is no rusting on this stonewash finish blade. None whatsoever. And that in and of itself is impressive to me. Beautiful blade shape, beautiful blade finish. We have an adequate amount of belly for slicing tasks and a great sharp tip. Let's see if I can bring that in. Very nice sharp tip, which is excellent for opening clamshell packages. So, in talking to him, what does he use this knife for? His everyday carry. This is actually his EDC and has been for the last 2 years or so. While it may be too large and too heavy for me to want to carry personally, it is the perfect size knife for someone like him. He has very large hands, and he doesn't carry a lot with him every day. He has his cell phone, he has his keys, and he has this, as well as his wallet. And that is all he carries, so he doesn't mind having a slightly heftier knife. And I don't carry much more myself. I usually will carry an additional multi-tool or Swiss Army knife or something with me. It's not so much the weight that puts it off for me as it is the overall size. I just don't need a blade this large. But if you're looking for an everyday carry knife that can also function really well as a self-defensive knife, this has all that in spades. The 8CR 14 MOV steel on here is honestly better than any 8CR 14 I've ever used before. And yes, I genuinely feel it's better than the 8CR 13 used on some of the other Kershaw models. If I hadn't tested it and seen how it's been used, I wouldn't believe it either, but I have. I'm the only person he knows who can actually sharpen a knife. I know that for a fact. So every time this knife has needed sharpening, he's come to me to sharpen it up. In the 2 years or so he has carried this knife, I've sharpened it for him 4 times. Okay, that's it, just 4 times. And through all that, this thing still has a nice sharp edge. In fact, it hasn't been sharpened in months. And his EDC tasks for this knife involve breaking down cardboard boxes at work, opening up clamshell packages, food prep. I know for a fact he's used this in the kitchen for slicing meat and vegetables at various points. And no doubt slamming onto the cutting board and the countertops because he's not overly careful with his knife. And I also know for a fact he's used the edge of the knife itself to open up bottles while at work. Apparently they were celebrating something, no one had a bottle opener, and he just took the knife, got the edge underneath the lip of the bottle cap, and popped it off for everyone at work. So this knife has been used and abused to hell. How's the edge on it? Well, you can see that it's not a pretty edge. I never put a super fine edge on the knife for him, just because I know for a fact that he's abusing this knife. So I don't want to give him something too delicate, but there's no rolls in the edge, there's no burrs, there's no real damage to speak of, and as far as how sharp the edge is, I don't have much arm hair here left from sharpening other knives, but how's that? It is not what I'd call a smooth shaving knife, but the blade itself can still actually shave. And that is, again, insane because this hasn't been sharpened in months. And I know for a fact he's been putting it through the ringer. So yeah, I would say this is the best 8CR14 MOV steel I've ever seen, easily surpassing all the competition with both their 13 and 14 variants. I don't know what they're doing differently. I don't know if this is just a superbly treated one out of the lineup and all the rest are the same as every other Kershaw. I have this to work with, so I'm going to work with this and use this as my basis for talking in comparison. And as a result, I'm extremely impressed with this blade. As far as the grind and shape, it slices extremely well. I know that he's had great success with it in the kitchen, and in my cardboard cutting that I did with it, it breezed through like butter. Like, it was not a single, it was not even a, it wasn't a problem, is what I'm trying to say, for the knife. It cleaved clean through, sliced clean through, no resistance. It did remarkably well. Blade, like I said, is a bit too long for me at 3.9 inches long, but if you're looking for a larger everyday carry size blade, this is going to be probably perfect for you. Handle, like I mentioned before, about medium grip G10. This one's been slicking down a lot with a stainless steel frame lock. How does that lock engage? Kind of in the middle, not super early, not super late. But the lockup is a bank vault. There's no play up and down. There's no play side to side. This thing is tight. It has developed side-to-side play over time. It's been easily adjusted with that very nice flat head pivot screw, and I actually love the flat head and Phillip head construction of this knife. Whenever I first saw them on the Emerson knives, and of course later the Kershaw Emerson knives, I thought they looked really cheap and tacky. But honestly, it is just super utilitarian. It's just super helpful to have basic hardware that you can take apart with any multi-tool or any Swiss Army knife when you're out and about. Maybe you're out camping, don't have a lot of ways to take this thing apart. All you have is your tool or your Swiss Army knife. It is easy enough to just go ahead and pop this thing open, scrub everything down, put it all back together like nothing happened. And I love that about it. And as you can see, we do have some Phillips head on the body, a flat head on the pivot point, and Phillips head on the pocket clip. Yes, he did lose a pocket clip screw somewhere. That was not me. That popped out one day while he was at work. Fairly common issue with Kershaw pocket clips, I know. Honestly, I could just email them, and I know for a fact they send a replacement, and I probably will after this video. You can actually see the pocket clip, by the way. Very simple design, and I actually need to go grab something because I wasn't fully prepared for this video, so give me just 1 second. Forgot my patented cutlery lever pocket. But you can see that it's a fairly simple basic design with the little Emerson skull on there. And the coating is wearing down as you would expect for it to do on a knife that's been carried and used for this long. The pocket clip is reversible to left and right hand side, but only for the tip up position, which is no big deal because this knife does have a wave feature for the deployment. Didn't talk about the deployment on this, by the way. It is a thumb disc deployment, not a thumb plate, as seen on some other Kershaws, but a true thumb disc. And it comes out super fast. You don't need any wrist action, just a simple flick on the thumb disc, and it comes out with a lot of authority. Now, if you want to go ahead and give it a wrist flick, you can get it out even faster, but it isn't necessary due to how strong that ball detent is. See if we can hear this. Very solid. If I shake the hell out of this knife, nothing. Does not pop open. If I really, I'm going to have to do it off camera, but if I really throw it down, there we go. I can get the blade to deploy, but unless you're pushing on that thumb disc, there is no way this is coming open without your consent, unless you're using the wave feature. Yep, this has Emerson's typical wave feature on it. Let's go ahead and show you how that works, and show you how it carries at the same time. So, go ahead and scoot it over. So you can see it carries not super deep, but there's a reason for that. You need a decent amount of knife protruding from the pocket, or a decent enough amount of handle protruding from the pocket so you can grab onto it and pull it out. Now, I failed to do it there because I'm trying to work around a tripod here, but if I can actually just get this over here, the wave feature actually catches on the edge of that pocket and will pop the knife open for you. Very tried and true tested design. Let's see if I can get it on camera here. Nope, because I have to embarrass myself. There we go. Trust me, when you're doing it from your own pocket, it's a lot easier because you're not having to work around a bunch of recording equipment and work with a cutout back pocket that doesn't have a slope. But the wave feature works just as well as any Emerson, just as well as any Cold Steel, and just as well as any Spyderco wave knife. So deployment is excellent, speed is excellent, lockup is excellent. The clip is, I'd say, fine. That is a lot of knife to have hanging out of your pocket, but again, you want something to grip onto so that wave can catch your pocket and sling the blade open for you. Being a frame lock design, a lot of people might argue that this is not a truly ambidextrous knife. I would beg to differ. My brother, all my life, obviously, I live with my brother Shane, and he is a left-handed person. And all of his life, he has carried and used liner locks and frame locks. And just as, as a righty, I'm used to disengaging by pushing over and guiding the blade in. He is used to pulling the frame back and then sliding the blade closed. And this pops open just as easily left-handed as it does right-handed, although I'm far less skilled with it because I am a righty. But as a result, yes, I would say this is a truly ambidextrous knife. The thumb plate or the thumb disc works well for that. Obviously, the wave doesn't care what side it's coming out of. And being able to go left or right is a nice plus. Lanyard hole does look like it could accommodate 550 cord, if only barely. But it is an option if you wanted to put a lanyard on this. I don't think it needs it because the handle is plenty large. And you have enough knife sticking out of the pocket to grab onto as it is. But if you wanted to put a lanyard on here, it wouldn't be hard to do. Honestly, there's not a lot I don't like about this knife. The build quality is outstanding. It is put together extremely solidly. You can see we do have a G10 backspacer. It is not a full flow-through design. As I mentioned before, this is not a milled-out steel scale or steel liner, so they could probably save some weight by doing that, but the guys who are buying this are basically wanting a proxy for a real Emerson. And from what I've seen, a lot of Emersons are not lightweight knives, so keeping it real by keeping the Kershaw version nice and heavy, I know a lot of guys like the heft in their hand when they're working with it, and this definitely provides that at that 6.1 ounce carry weight. But overall, the fit and finish and quality on this are outstanding. It blows away a lot of knives I've ever handled in its price point, and I know a lot of you are going to criticize the knife for being, quote, so expensive at $45 and still using 8CR14 MOV. I know these days you can get D2 steel for half that price. You can get a lot of other better steels, but again, this formulation of 8CR14 has really surprised me. And keep in mind, I got really tired of a lot of Kershaw knives for a while there. In fact, one of the reasons why that I stopped doing the whole knife thing was that the knife companies weren't interesting me. Specifically, Kershaw and CRKT were really beginning to bore me. And whenever I saw this knife, a couple years ago, after I'd already quit doing the YouTube thing for a while, I was extremely impressed. I thought it was a cool design. Obviously, I like the collaboration. And seeing how that steel is held up and performed, colored me impressed. It is a fantastic knife for the money. There's all sorts of knives in the CQC line, the Kershaw Emerson line, and I will honestly probably buy a few more of them and test them out for myself. I'll probably convince him to buy a couple more different versions and test them out for himself, and that way I can go ahead and do some more reviews for you guys. But I think I've covered just about everything on this knife. The only thing I haven't talked about really is the quote-unquote jimping top side here. It is pretty much worthless, but that thumb ramp is very nice in hand. What I will say is if you're planning to buy any of the Kershaw Emerson knives for your EDC, there is one other item I think is essential to your everyday carry, and that is a little multi-tool. I personally choose to carry and use the dime, and I've been carrying and using this ever since my review on it years and years ago, but for you it might be a Leatherman Squirt or maybe something even larger like a Leatherman Juice. But the reason why this is the perfect complement to these knives is you have the hardware you need, or the tools you need, to take your knife apart and to maintenance it. So you have your little Phillips head, which goes perfectly into these screws, as well as the pocket clip screws. And you have your flat head to adjust your pivot point. So if you're planning on buying any of the Kershaw Emerson knives, definitely pick you up a little Gerber dime or Leatherman Squirt to go alongside it. They complement each other so perfectly. And I'm assuming if you're carrying a knife this heavy, you probably don't want to carry a full-size multi-tool, which is what makes this so perfect as a companion. So, that is my review of the Kershaw CQC-4KXL. It is a fantastic, larger, everyday carry knife if you're willing to take on the size and weight, as well as a great defensive option. $45 is absolutely worth it for this knife, and you can probably get it even cheaper. I was just looking at BladeHQ.com. I wouldn't be shocked if you can find this for $35 online, maybe even 30 bucks. And if you can find it for anything below 50, I definitely say jump on it. It is a fantastic knife, and it really blew me away. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, peace and take care.